When most people picture Grand Theft Auto 6, they're picturing this: the high energy neon, the exotic supercars, and the loud, chaotic streets of Vice City. It's exactly what we expect from Rockstar. But if you look closely at the map that we've been piecing together, away from the coastlines and past the city lights, there's this massive intentional void. Miles of absolute nothing but endless water, swamp, and silence. And that is the Grassrivers. On paper, a giant wetland and swamp sounds like it might not be the most interesting. A place you might just fly a helicopter over or kind of drive through once and never go back. Except this is Rockstar, and this isn't just going to be map filler. Not only is it one of the 6 regions that's been revealed, but I'd argue that the Grassrivers has a chance to be the most crucial biome on the entire map, because it's explicitly designed to do something the rest of the game won't, and that's slow you down on purpose. Today, we're doing a complete breakdown of the Grassrivers. We'll look at the gators, the local factions, and the hidden history buried in the swamps. As always, confirmed is confirmed, and when I'm speculating, I'll make it clear. Let's get into it. To understand the Grassrivers as a region, we got to strip away the guesswork and just look at the info that Rockstar has given us. They aren't treating this as transitional flyover territory or just like the empty wilderness zone. In their own official breakdown of the state's regions, they explicitly refer to this region as the untamable jewel of Leonida's crown. So they're calling this big swamp wetland area the jewel. That's pretty strong wording for an area that appears to just be a swamp and wetland, right? Geographically, this area anchors the southwestern part of the map to the west of Vice City. It serves as a massive wild expanse that's the connective tissue between Vice City, the downtown skyscrapers and neon of that, and the smaller county towns like Port Gellhorn or Ambrosia. I think one of the main things that this region will offer, though, is just the different pace that it offers. Compared to Vice City or even the smaller county towns or even the Leonida Keys, this will be a region that's unlike anywhere else on the map, with just miles of raw, unpaved nature. For example, you can go from the hyper-dense Vice City with supercars everywhere and neon lights to miles of raw nature where your standard sports car is essentially just useless and you're going to need an airboat or very specific off-road vehicles. It's a design choice that will give the map a great sense of scale and force you to step out of the fast cars and into the rugged terrain of the Grassrivers. Moving on from the wildlife and the swamp in general, let's talk about the laws of the area. Because Rockstar's built an entire faction specifically for gators, and it seems this region as well. Enter POACH, P-O-A-C-H. And that stands for Protection of Animals and Controlled Hunting. This appears to be Rockstar's parody of real-world state conservation enforcement, and based on the official footage that we have, POACH doesn't appear to just be a passive logo on a billboard. It seems that they're a fully active, aggressive law enforcement faction within the world, and we can see that in some of the pictures and trailer footage that we have. They've got their own dedicated vehicle fleets, with squad trucks, tactical airboats, and aviation units. And if you commit a crime out here, you might not just be dealing with your standard cops, but rather a specialized task force that knows exactly how to navigate the swampy terrain. They even have their own in-universe social media presence as well, posting warnings to stay alert for uninvited guests before pool parties, where you can see they're pulling a gator out of a pool. But if you look beneath just the surface, Rockstar's official description for the region says that gators are the famous danger out there. However, they also say there are far deadlier predators and weirder discoveries hiding in the swamps. I think that this deadlier predator they're referring to is definitely humans that are running stuff in the swamps. Like, for example, take this frame for example. That's not a wildlife rescue. This is a black market smuggling operation in progress. POACH exists to give the Grassrivers flavor and support illicit underground economies that have absolutely nothing to do with Vice City or the Leonida Keys smuggling or those typical crimes. This is a different, local, gritty, backwoods animal trafficking sort of thing. I think this is reasonable speculation given what we have from Rockstar. And to be clear, we don't know the exact gameplay loop here. We don't know if there's going to be POACH missions yourself or if you can interrupt these. But from what we've seen, it does seem like something that could be in the game. The Grassrivers is essentially going to be GTA 6's version of Sandy Shores. It's that dedicated rural area where all the city rules basically go out of the window, except instead of being in a desert this time, now it's going to be in a swamp. And this is also where the map shifts from being just the pretty nature backdrop to being more of a massive mechanical sandbox. Every major territory in this game appears to be getting its own unique culture, and that applies to their vehicles as well. Vice City has the neon and the supercars, the Keys have deep sea boats and smuggling cars, and the Grassrivers is going to belong to mud and off-roading. For example, the car you see on the screen right now is the 67 Vapid Dominator buggy. Now, Rockstar confirmed that this is an Ultimate Edition vehicle, and it's built to handle off-road terrain, which would include swamps. It's not just the car that we're getting. It links directly to a property bonus called Paradise Garage, located out in a spot called Watson Bay. And that garage actually has real gameplay utility. You get a personal weapon locker and a physical stash box to drop off your illegal goods to be fenced. And that Watson Bay appears to be close to the Grassrivers according to the community mapping project, but again, that's just speculation and nothing confirmed from Rockstar. And that leads me right into the next point, which is the other big off-roading spot that was confirmed with the Ultimate Edition, which is One-Eyed Willie's. Now, this is the official off-road custom mod shop where you go for specific off-road needs, just like this custom green truck that we can see. And according to Rockstar, this is located on Lake Leonida. Now, Lake Leonida is not directly inside the Grassrivers. It appears to be a little further north, but close and adjacent to the Grassrivers. So this will probably be a spot that we frequent given the muddy, swampy terrain of the Grassrivers. And it proves that the rural side of GTA 6 isn't just going to be one big boring block of swamp and trees. Rockstar is dividing the state into all these distinct macrobiomes, whether it's the swamp or the country mountains of Mount Calaga. Obviously there's the city, and then there's the Leonida Keys as well. Each of these behave differently, have different terrain, and look differently. And when you connect all the regions together, they form a massive connected off-road ecosystem. And we know that this type of muddy culture is fully integrated into the game from footage we've seen of Trailer 1, where they showed us the Thrillbilly Mud Club. It appears to be a name faction based on the real-world Florida mud clubs, where thousands of people, and they'll take their trucks and ATVs and such and go mudding. Now, Rockstar could have left the swamp completely flat and empty with not much to do, but instead they gave it its own unique culture and lifestyle and activities to do. So let's take a quick step back for just a second, because when we look at all this specific detail in the region, it can be easy to lose perspective on the sheer scale of the map of GTA 6. Everything that I've spent the last few minutes showing you, from the poach enforcement to the black market alligator smuggling to the mud clubs to the off-road stuff, all of that is existing within the Grassrivers. And that's just one region out of the 6 territories that Rockstar has officially confirmed, which consisted of Vice City, the Keys, the Grassrivers, Mount Calaga, Port Gellhorn, and Ambrosia. 6 massive, distinct zones. So the fact that they built a localized area that's this swamp that's deeply detailed and mechanically rich, when it might honestly end up being one of the more geographically less populated regions on the entire map, that kind of tells you the scale that we can expect with this game. And look at this shot right here. As you can see, it's a town on the water on stilts with a tiny dock, maybe some local shops and dive bars. And notice how far away the Vice City city skyline is in the background. It's so distant that it barely registers on the horizon. And I think that specific atmosphere captures kind of the philosophy behind the Grassrivers. This region is not going to be this densely packed area like some of the other regions might be. It's not going to have storefronts and places to rob every 5 feet or crowds of pedestrians, whatever. It's intentionally sparse and less populated. But that doesn't mean empty. To me, the Grassrivers are where GTA 6 will stop feeling like a city game and start feeling more like an exploration game. For example, take Red Dead Redemption 2. That game taught us that when we're traveling through those massive quiet stretches of wilderness and we see that smoke in the air or a cabin, sitting in the middle of nowhere, we're kind of inclined to go, what's there, who lives there, what can we see there, and go explore that location. And that to me is where the sparse population of the Grassrivers will really make exploration meaningful. Every isolated shack, dock, hunting camp, whatever we find out there immediately raises questions and it makes us want to go explore it. And that to me is the true value of the Grassrivers. It uses isolation as a gameplay mechanic to make exploration feel much more rewarding and give that wilderness sort of angle that Vice City won't have. You don't need overwhelming density when every single structure is earning your curiosity by just existing there, you know what I mean? It forces you into grounded exploration where you want to intentionally spend free roam sessions just exploring the region and letting your curiosity do the work instead of chasing a checklist of things to do and map markers. Remember how I mentioned earlier the warning about far deadlier predators hiding in the swamp? This is where that line might start to pay off. So let's look at this group, for example. This isn't a family vacation, and these aren't tourists taking photos for their socials. These are people who live, work, and bleed in the swamp. Let's look at some of the details here. You can see high-powered rifles resting casually against their legs, beer bottles scattered about, and a massive kill already secured on the deck of the airboat. They're completely comfortable, heavily armed, and entirely unbothered by the environment. Now, this is just my personal interpretation, but when you pair this imagery with the poach stuff that we mentioned earlier, you kind of start to see some of the inner factions of this region and how they might interact. The wildlife aren't the only threat here. The official descriptions heavily suggest that the greatest danger out here might just be the people itself. And this looks like that human element, and these might be the people that Poach is actively flying helicopters over the swamp to try and find. Rockstar excels at building worlds where two factions are already locked in a bitter, systemic war before a player even shows up. You saw it in Red Dead Redemption 2 with the rival gangs, we saw it in GTA 5 with the rival agencies, and it looks like we might even see it here in just the Grassrivers itself. The local heavily armed swamp economy on one side and aggressive specialized wildlife state enforcement on the other. And you as a player are likely going to be dropped right into the middle of that tension. So when we string it all together, you have a live, functioning wildlife enforcement sandbox with its own dedicated tactical fleet and living ecosystem and people that live there as well. It looks like the Grassrivers could feature pretty good off-roading as well, with a whole motorsport culture built around it, airboats, and it appears to be populated by an isolated local economy that is actively warring with the state itself. The Grassrivers might end up being one of the most memorable regions in all of GTA 6. And it's not because it's dense like Vice City or packed with endless amounts of content, but because every single discovery feels completely intentional. The bright neon lights and the massive skyscrapers of Vice Cities are always going to get 90% of the attention. And they deserve it. But this grounded take on the Everglades and wilderness is the exact foundation that makes the city feel that much more special. In my next breakdown video, we're going to head to the north side of Leonida to the Mount Calaga National Park, which is the mountainous forest region of the map. I appreciate all of y'all for